Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So this week, Apple could potentially in the future be facing some antitrust lawsuits over their monopolistic practices in the App Store. And then secondly, Linux has a brand new dangerous malware that is out in the wild. So let's go ahead and start with this first bit of news. So just here recently, the Supreme Court signaled that Apple could face a revived antitrust lawsuit over its price control over the iPhone and iPad App Store. So basically this stems from a case back in 2011, Apple versus Pepper, where Apple was sued for allegedly, charging too much money for its mandatory 30% commission. And that basically talks about a monopoly that they had, forcing people to pay more in the App Store versus in any other place. And the reason why this was important is because it actually goes into the whole music industry. Because the whole idea of streaming music is a huge thing now, is highly competitive, and companies like Spotify have talked about this many times before, and many other companies in which, like, if you are on the App Store, you actually get charged more, versus you getting the same piece of music anywhere else, and it's cheaper. So basically, Apple is able to make way more money for the same exact piece of music versus that they could anywhere else, even if it is a streaming service. And so that's definitely something that I could see the other companies would argue against. But even just in general, you are going to have to pay more for apps usually in the App Store because Apple is enforcing that 30% commission. And if it's not more expensive in the App Store, then obviously they could increase the prices in other places as well because it's already more expensive in the App Store. And so obviously this benefits Apple first because they are going to get their cut, and it is a pretty significant cut, especially if you are a small App Store maker. But even for all these other music services as well, the royalty payments are so high, and so the profit margins are extremely low. And so the previous case was dismissed because basically Apple convinced the courts that they are not selling this directly to the users. They are a reseller because of the whole App Store model, and it was dismissed. But now the appeals court has actually reversed this in 2017, and now the Supreme Court has taken this over. Now, obviously, if this does go through, that means that users of the iPhone App Store could potentially file lawsuits against Apple for these practices, very much like the original case. And also, this would definitely benefit Apple's competitors like Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Google Music, just basically anybody out there who is also providing, their music, the same exact music on their platforms. And so it also affects, in general, a much larger area as well, which is basically the whole App Store model. And so this is going to be very interesting, to say the least, because this has large ramifications, because the app stores in whatever platform you're in or any of these streaming services, this affects all of them, and that could definitely affect how much people are going to be charged in the future. Okay, so if this goes the way that I think the people who were against this model Apple has, if it goes the way that it wants to, then potentially we could potentially see lower costs. Okay, I think that is the general idea. But it is Apple, and so they face lawsuits quite a bit, and they have a ton of money and a ton of power. And so I'm not sure how far this is going to go, but it does give people who are not happy with this particular type of system that they have and how it affects everybody else, then it might give them some recourse if they feel like they are not being, charged fairly, or even from a competitive standpoint as well. So on the second bit of news is there's a brand new Linux malware. And, a lot of people who use Linux on their desktop, they might make fun of Windows users, and even in some cases Apple users, but really just Windows users, of how they don't have to deal with viruses and malware. And that debate will always go on. But the problem is, no matter what operating system that you're in, there's always going to be security issues that can occur and vulnerabilities. And so just recently, a Russian company called Dr. Web identified a brand new nasty one. This is a 1,000 lines of code shell script. It's called linux.btcmine.174. And as you could probably tell by the name, this is primarily a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency type malware. But the thing is, this does a lot of other bad things. And so once it gets in, its main function is to actually mine cryptocurrency, Monero, but it does many other things here as well. It also downloads a Bill Gates Trojan. Yes, you heard that right. It's a DDoS malware, but it also opens backdoors for other bad things to happen. Once it takes over, not only does it perform its cryptocurrency mining function, but it also disables other Linux-based antivirus systems. It looks for these processes, and I'm pretty sure it kills them or blocks them. And then it also has an auto-run entry into various files, and then it runs that as a rootkit. And then this could also take over your operating system with su command as well, and it can hide many other files. And finally, that's not all. It could also connect to other servers and then spread itself here. And so definitely not a good thing, and specifically with all the various damage that it can do. And from what I could tell, this is very new, but it looks like maybe this antivirus or the security company, Dr. Web, I think they might have found a solution. It looks like here, Dr. Web behind this discovery appears to have fixed it already, and it has a solution in place. So hopefully this solution will actually spread to other places so that people who want to protect their systems can. But this news just goes to show, that we as Linux desktop users, everything on a server itself, I think that's a different area. There's going to be usually more security there. But if you are a Linux desktop user, I really would feel, as usual, use as much common sense, be as knowledgeable as possible, because, there's no operating system that is 100% secure. And so, hopefully that we don't get that false sense of security. I myself have not experienced anything, on the level of Windows ever since I've been using Linux for about a decade now, a little more than a decade. But at the same time, I do like to keep aware of these things, because if it so happens that it does occur, then I'll know how to fix it. Okay, and that is it for this week's news. If you had any thoughts on this Linux malware, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. Or maybe if you had any thoughts on Apple's App Store, I'd like to know your thoughts as well. So as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hey geeks, if you are a creative geek like me and you wanted to learn how to create content on YouTube and other places on the internet, then check out my Gold Content Creators Group, where you'll get access to 30 videos plus additional content for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part of it is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators Group. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.